Hello everybody and welcome back to The Lost Planeswalker. You're here with me, Jesse, The Lost Planeswalker, and today I'm here to talk all about a before you buy for Modern Horizons 3. This is the set of the year. You know, last year it was Lord of the Rings. This year it's Modern Horizons 3. And, you know, this is a well-anticipated set. You know, the first Modern Horizons set was a big hit, and then 2 years later, the next one came out, and it's been 3 years since Modern Horizons 2, which not only shook up Modern, but Commander as well. And I have a feeling that this set, of course, is going to do so as well. I did another video comparing all of the Modern sets, you know, kind of what to expect and whatnot, and I did find some interesting research, which makes a lot of sense about Modern, which is these sets are designed to be pushed. I mean, that is the all intents and purposes of these sets, with old mechanics, bringing them back, giving them kind of a new, fresh look, and all that sort of, you know, really fun stuff that maybe we don't get as much of in these standard sets when they come out, and that's what this set is about. So this video is going to cover everything we know. Throughout this video, I'm going to be showing off all of the new cards, not running through them because that'll take forever, talking about the commander decks, the prices, everything you need to know that, you know, may be relevant, including a lot of the fun cards that they've kind of made for this set based on older cards and whatnot. So let's start out by looking at some of those new themes we're going to see here in Modern Horizons 3. And there's kind of two major themes that I'm seeing as of right now that I don't think were as heavily represented in the other Modern sets, where this set is going to be very heavily themed around Eldrazi creatures. Eldrazi are back. They're powerful. They're big. You know, we're getting an Eldrazi commander deck with this set. So, of course, you know, we're going to be showing off some really cool, powerful Eldrazi cards. So that is going to be one of the main themes that I think we're going to get a lot of. But secondly, one of the other very cool things is we're getting a lot of cards based on older cards. For example, Eldrazi based, we have Null Elemental Blast and Null Drifter, which is obviously red or blue Elemental Blast, and then Mole Drifter. So I think that this is a very cool crossover. I'm going to talk about all of those that we've received so far. But one of the main things that Modern Horizons 2 was really sought after for were those fetch lands. And we are getting another set of fetch lands here, the other 5 that we didn't receive in Modern Horizons 1. I'm not sure if these are the enemy or allied ones, whichever it is. But we are getting a Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strand, Polluted Delta, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothills. Obviously, these are going to drive up prices. Some of the most expensive cards from this set so far are the cool full art versions of these or the old frame bordered versions of these, so that's something to keep in mind. Just like the other fetch lands that we already got reprinted in Modern Horizons 2, I have a big feeling that these are going to go down in price a lot, especially, you know, the basic versions of them, so be aware of that. This would be a great time to pick up those fetch lands at a great price. You know, these are running about $20 or less right now, so I mean, there's a good possibility of you being able to get your hands on these already, but I could see these dropping to the sub $20 just like the other fetch lands for Modern Horizons 2. So like I mentioned earlier, we're getting a lot of cards based on older cards, and I kind of want to run through those real quickly and kind of see what kind of themes or flavor we're seeing from this set. So first off, we have Null Elemental Blast, a single colorless mana instant, choose one, counter target multicolored spell or destroy target multicolored permanent. This is in direct relation to Red Elemental Blast and Blue Elemental Blast that specifically target red or blue cards and counter them and can destroy them, which is very powerful. Null Elemental Blast, I think, is going to be very strong as well. You know, maybe they're trying to push colorless in Modern, and this would be a great card to add. Obviously, Blue Elemental and Red Elemental Blast are way too old, being first printed in Revised or something, so there's no way that those are going to be Modern legal unless they put them in. Now, Null Elemental Blast is. Next up there, we have Null Drifter, 7 generic creature, Eldrazi Elemental with when you cast a spell, draw 2 cards, flying, Annihilator 1, and evoke for 2 and a blue. And this is obviously making fun of Mole Drifter, 4 and a blue, creature elemental flying, when it enters, draw 2 cards, evoke for 2 and a blue. So we get a very, very similar card setup here, with it's got flying, when it enters, you draw 2 cards, and you can evoke both of these creatures for 2 and a blue, meaning you technically cast it, but it immediately gets sacrificed. So there's some cool shenanigans you can work around there. Null Drifter here is 2 additional mana to cast, and it has 2 additional power plus Annihilator 1, which is very nice. So maybe if you're playing some Tron strategy or something like that, you're going to be able to get this card out very quickly. The next card, we have kind of some reference to here is Flare of Denial. Flare of Denial here can have kind of reference to any number of other counter spells with denial in them. It's kind of a chain of them, but I think specifically this card relates back to the other free counter spell that we got from Modern Horizons, Force of Negation. Same mana cost and a similar alternative casting cost, where in this case you sack a non-token blue creature rather than paying its cast to counter a creature, where Force of Negation actually can only counter target non-creature spell. Force of Negation also does exile it, so there's some additional benefit there, but I think Flare of Denial is going to be a modern all-star. I can see this card going for a lot of money. Right now it's around $30. I can see this being a commander staple, and it's actually pretty amazing. So I can't wait to see what the other cards in this cycle are, but we're going to talk about one of the other ones later on. But next up, we have Chithawanian Nightmare. 1 in a black enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, you get 3 energy. Pay X energy, sack a creature, return this to its owner's hand. Return target creature card with mana value X or less from the graveyard to the battlefield, activate only as a sorcery. And this is a fun new version of Recurring Nightmare, which is 2 in a black enchantment. Sack a creature, return Recurring Nightmare to its owner's hand, put target creature card from your graveyard into play this ability as a sorcery. So there's kind of 2 good and bad things about this Chithawanian Nightmare. First off, it's cheaper, which is a very important part of casting this real early, which is all about Modern. You know, if we can cast this for 2 and get something with 3 mana or smaller back onto the battlefield, that is pretty great. Recurring Nightmare, though, has the benefit of being able to get anything back for sacking a creature. Now, you can play Chithawanian Nightmare and get more things back based on the amount of mana you have, because it does cost 2 instead of 3 to play and do all that with, but you know, this is a really fun version of this card. I can see this being great in, you know, a lot of smaller decks that care about those smaller creatures, which there's a lot of in Modern. In Commander-wise, I can see this being great in a Lurrus deck, obviously being able to get stuff back for free, and everything's going to already be pretty small, so that seems pretty cool there. And next up, one of the most expensive cards from the set right now, we have a Nethergoyf, single black creature Lurgoyf, with Nethergoyf's power is equal to the number of card types among cards in your graveyard, and its toughness is equal to that +1. It has escape for 2 in a black. Exile any number of other cards from your graveyard with 4 or more card types among them, and then you may cast this from your graveyard for its escape cost. So really, really cool card here. Obviously care about dumping a bunch of stuff into the graveyard, but it's in direct reference, in my opinion, to Lurgoyf and then Tarmogoyf, of course. They are the 2 cards that let you have a +1 to your toughness and care about cards in the graveyard. So this is a cool new version. You know, I'm not super sure, you know, what kind of deck this is going to fit in. I think there might be a whole archetype built around it. You know, with the prices it's out right now, I don't play, you know, black graveyard shenanigans in Modern per se. You know, I have a Greasefang deck in Pioneer, so of course graveyard stuff is great, but this is a cool new card and we have some cool callbacks there. Spawn Gang Commander, 3 red creature Eldrazi Goblin with Devoid. When you cast a spell, create 3/0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature tokens. Sack this to create a colorless mana. 1 in a colorless mana, sack an Eldrazi Spawn Gang Commander, deals 2 damage to any target. This is making fun of Siege Gang Commander, 3 red creature goblin. When it enters, put 3/1/1 red goblin creature tokens into play. Then for 1 in a red sack goblin, it deals 2 damage to any creature or player. Very fun card. You know, if you've ever played a goblin deck, I mean, this is one of the cards that goes in it. You know, it is an alternate win con, kind of, if you can get enough red mana, and just dealing a ton of damage. But Spawn Gang Commander here, obviously very fun with the Eldrazi theme. Making those Eldrazi spawn is pretty good. I can definitely see there being some really cool plays there, maybe with drafting it, but other than that, I don't really think it's too much of a standout card. But the next card I want to talk about is Flare of Cultivation, which is obviously a direct correlation to Cultivate. Instead of paying for this, you can sacrifice a green creature, then search your library for 2 basic land cards, reveal them, put one of them on the battlefield tapped and the other one into your hand. Cultivate and Kodama's Reach, 2 of the most played ramp spells ever. Flare of Cultivation just makes this better. One of the most amazing things about this, I think, is how fast you can ramp. I don't think we've ever received a free ramp spell, but turn 1, play Forest, play a green creature, sack it to this, put another land onto the board, and then another land into your hand, essentially ramping you on turn 1, which, unless you have a 0-drop, or I don't even think there is a 1-drop Modern legal artifact to help ramp you that quickly. But now a very old callback, all the way back to Odyssey, we have Psychic Frog, blue and a black creature frog with whenever this deals combat damage to player or planeswalker, draw a card. Discard a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Psychic Frog. Exile 3 cards from your graveyard. Psychic Frog gains flying until end of turn. And we get Psychotog, 1 blue black creature, Atog. Discard a card from your hand. It gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Remove 2 cards from your graveyard from the game. This gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. I think Psychic Frog here is going to be an amazing card. I can see this being so much fun in so many different ways. Free discard outlet is amazing. If you're playing any Madness cards, this is going to be perfect for that because you also get to buff this creature. Giving it flying means you can get in with great evasion, and then you actually draw cards when it deals combat damage. So very, very much looking forward to getting my hands on this, but I can definitely see this being a very good card. Next is Rite of the Reliquary, black and a green creature zombie knight with vigilance. It gets +1/+1 for each card in your graveyard. Then sack another creature, search your library for a land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. This is a almost carbon copy of Knight of the Reliquary, 1 green white creature human knight. It gets +1/+1 for each land in your graveyard. Sack a forest or plains, search your library for a land, put on the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Knight of the Reliquary is still better, even though it costs 1 generic mana more, and you have to sack a plains or forest. You are getting a land untapped, which is pretty powerful because when you're playing really tight and consistent games, getting a Tolarian Academy or card such as that onto the battlefield is super important, and Knight of the Reliquary here is going to help you do so. And the last card that I'm aware of anyways that has any connection to an older card here is Winter Moon, 2 generic artifact. Players can't untap more than 1 non-basic land during their untap step, and this is very closely related to Winter Orb, 2 generic artifact. As long as Winter Orb is untapped, players can't untap more than 1 land during their untap step. Winter Orb is one of the highest salt rated cards. I believe it's within the top 10, if not the top 5, and for good reason. Untapping lands is a very important part of the game, and I think where Winter Moon is way more effective and actually fair is that it only makes non-basic lands harder to untap versus basics. Winter Moon is my top picked card so far that I think is just so amazing for new players getting into Modern. And what I mean by that is some of the best Modern decks, most of the best Modern decks have really expensive land bases, and it makes it really hard for players who don't have the money or resources in order to get copies of those to play to be able to kind of even the playing field. Just play a bunch of basics, have a Winter Moon, and unless they can deal with it, which they probably will, but if they can't, then you kind of even the playing field and make it harder for them to untap their stuff and cast stuff, forcing them to also play basics or search for basics as well. So I think Winter Moon is a very, very cool card. I'm very excited to see what kind of impact it's going to make in the game. I'm hoping, it kind of helps in those ways that I already talked about. But now I want to quickly look at some box prices, then talk about commander cards. So Modern Horizons 3, obviously like the past 2 Modern sets, is going to be expensive. But notably here, we have play boosters versus draft and set boosters. I'm not sure how these are going to work on a set so expensive. I think we've had some good or mixed results with play boosters in the first 2 sets they came out in. I'm very interested to see how Modern players or, players picking up packs feel about play boosters, because these are going to be premium packs. These cards are going to cost more than normal. A play booster box is, costing more than a collector booster box of Murder at Karlov Manor or Ella's Thunder Junction. So that's something very important to keep in mind. They're right around $270 right now, which is out of my price range right now for what I would be willing to pay. Obviously the cards are good, but $270 is just way too much. And then almost at $400, which is very similar to Lord of the Rings last year, we have the collector booster boxes, which is insane because there's no chance of you getting a $2 million card, It's just for packs of Modern Horizons cards, which is insane that these cards and boxes are going for as much as they are. But we have 4 commander decks here. First off, we have Graveyard Overdrive, which is black, red, and green. Fill up your graveyard and then Avenge the Dead, which is honestly pretty generic for graveyard stuff. I'm very excited. I know this commander is kind of been spoiled. I'm not 100% certain, but has to deal with Tarmogoyfs or Lurgoyf cards, so I think this is going to be a pretty interesting deck there. Next up is Trickery Terrain. This is the Simic deck, which ramps lands and then grows value, which is just so generic. I mean, that's what Simic does. So, you know, I'm not really certain what this is going to do Simic-wise. I think there's got to be some really interesting cards for this actually to be worth buying versus just building another Simic deck. Creative Energy, which is all about energy, obviously. This is a Jeskai energy deck, which is going to be pretty fun. But you get energy counters, and then you get powerful payoffs, which, again, is what energy does. It's not really, you know, that creative by any means. So, you know, excited to see more about this deck when it comes out. But kind of the deck we've seen a lot of spoilers for already is the Eldrazi Incursion deck, which you start small and then Eldrazi Smash. So again, not super creative. The commanders that haven't been officially spoiled, but we've kind of seen, do look pretty great. We have some great Eldrazi stuff. I know that the co-commander for this deck cares about Eldrazi Spawn, which I think is really neat, because I think there isn't really a place for Spawn yet, but we've seen a lot of cards that make Spawn, so it makes a lot of sense. So yeah, I mean, these decks do look pretty cool. The prices on them, I think, are a little high. I think they might come down a little bit more. We're looking at $225 on TCG Player right now, and the collector versions of these decks spiked a bit. I saw them right around $600, which I thought was incredibly expensive, and now I'm seeing them for around $750, which is just astronomically expensive. I don't know why these decks just went up in price so much. I don't know if they're just sold out and all that's left is the bottom of the barrel, but, you know, I would not pay that much for any of these decks. You know, we are going to get a lot of new cards, but as all commander decks do, they're going to get reprinted a ton, and then those cards are going to be distributed, and it's just not going to be as much in the long run. So now I just want to talk about some quick statistics about this modern set, because I think it's interesting to know, you know, in total, there's going to be 303 cards in it. 261 are going to be new cards, and then another 42 are going to be new cards to Modern. So we've already seen some of those cards that are going to be printed into Modern, with Orum's Chant, Kappa Cannoneer, Lelia the Blade Reforged, Meltdown, Priest of Titania, and Sylvan Safekeeper. You know, I'm excited to see what the other 36 of those cards are. I think that these are very cool cards, especially Kappa Cannoneer. This is a very, very fun Kamigawa commander card, and I'm very excited to see this in Modern. I think this could make some really big waves. And as far as cycles go in this set, you know, we've only really seen one cycle that I'm aware of so far here, with the Flare of Denial and Flare of Cultivation. So we're going to get some more sack a permanent of a color and get this spell for free, which I think is going to be pretty great. And also, we are getting some Planeswalkers. We have a Johnny Nacatl Pariah and then a Johnny Nacatl Avenger. Very good, low-cost Planeswalker. These are the flip Planeswalkers. We got a set of them that are each the original 5 Lorwyn Planeswalkers. So I think that this is going to be kind of a newer version of this, except they are 2 colors each. So it's going to be a very, very cool set of cards. I've checked those out, but, you know, nothing official yet, so I don't like to show that on my channel. But overall, I think this Modern set is going to be really interesting and fun. And I've done a lot of hate so far about how I think this is going to be more commander focused than Modern focused, and I'm going to try and avoid that as spoilers start coming out, unless it becomes too apparent and obvious. But with that, I just want to say thank you so much for watching. I hope I provided you with some, you know, interesting information about this new Modern set. I hope you're excited. I'm going to be doing spoiler videos all this week, so, you know, as soon as we learn something, I'm going to be there ready to talk all about it. But I just want to say thank you so much for watching. You know, let me know in the comments down below what cards you're most excited for from Modern so far. You know, was there another reference to a version of a card that I just missed? You know, please tell me about it in the comments down below. I love seeing all of those, but all of the ones I mentioned were the ones that I knew about. And yeah, if you could share this video with a friend, subscribe, and leave a like, that would be amazing. But today's Scryfall card of the day is Slag Friend. Seal the furnace vents, admit no others. We'll tend our forges without their tainted ways. Decree of Urobrask. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you later, Planeswalkers.